Mentorship is not always just about getting information of how to make money, but also how to not lose money.
There's a difference between a mentor and a coach. Most people think that the coach and the mentor is the same person, and it's absolutely not. Your job to pay for things to take the lesson so you can bring it back to your community so they don't have to take the next lesson. You know what I mean? So that's that big difference, man. Coach, mentor.
What was the first year you bought a property?
Yeah.
And what do you think that is different buying properties then and buying properties now?
The year that I bought my first property was in 1991. All right. So that's when I started real estate 34 years ago, right? And a lot of people were like, well,
experience, wisdom. How many units or how many houses do you have? And I want to touch on that too.
Yeah. Right now we have them in the 85, 88 doors right now is what we have.
Nice. Congrats. You said don't focus too much on the doors, but focus more so on the cash flow. I think you call it like cash flow quadrant or something like that.
Yeah. So what it is that at one point I had over 100 and something doors. And then I started selling them off because I realized that, it's not the quantity of the door, it's the quality of the door. I know people right now and they got over 100 and something doors and they're cash flowing $200 a door.
$200.
Right? And then I know people right now who got a portfolio of 10 to 15 and they're getting $500-$600 a door. So they're actually winning.
The guide to where the environment is today with new investors, like what's your thoughts on debt? Whether it's hard money loans, lenders, credit cards, like what's your old idea just on debt in general and acquisitions?
Yeah, that's good. So
some people are like, yo, I'm gonna just apply for a credit card, get 50,000, 100,000, buy this house. And it's just gonna be like, it's just too easy for them. And it's not that I want people to struggle. It's just like some people get things too easily and they mismanage it.
If you sitting on $100,000 in liquid funds, you may have messed up 15, 20 before you got to the 100, but you learned along the way.
Yeah.
So when people get like the credit card, thing and the whole era of let me get the credit card and I'm gonna liquidate the card, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's a strategy. But if you don't have a plan, you don't have an exit strategy, you don't have any idea what you're going to do with the money, why do you need the money?
I call it premature funding.
That's exactly what it is. I ask people and I want people to understand, when you do business, you got to go with the end in mind. This is how I want to end my real estate career, then you're doing exactly what you want to do. But if your end strategy is, eventually I might get tired of this, I might pivot to something else, then you're only creating more concrete around your pivot that you can't pivot.
So welcome back to the Funded and Closed podcast. I'm your host, Derek Boone, and I'm so excited about this guest specifically. But before we get deep into that, welcome to the Funded and Closed pod. I'm excited because this is somebody like y'all gonna see. But I'm excited about this guest, but more excited about you watching this podcast. So this is a podcast I put together specifically for individuals that are looking to learn, grow, build, or just get started, not just in real estate, but in business in general. Because I understand that information changes situations. And for me specifically, I joined certain classes, but it was me listening to a lot of podcasts when I got started that changed my entire mindset. And a lot of people don't understand that. One thing I want to say is in school, I was saying this on Instagram earlier, in school and college, we had something called prerequisites.
Yep. And
a lot of prerequisites is not just in school, but it's in life. So I truly believe that your whole trajectory of your life can change. But the prerequisite to that is your thinking has to change.
Yep.
But the prerequisite to your thinking has to change is your environment has to change. And the prerequisite of your environment has to change. You have to make a decision. So I have to make a decision that I'm not living or doing or acting or being on this type of time that I'm on right now. I want to see change. Like, for example, for me, I was working at this job. I was making $10 an hour. And I was like, yo, it's it. I'm done. Like I got to do something different.
Yeah.
Then I started changing my environment. I started going to different classes, started hanging out with different people, started being in different rooms, which by default, your mind started like, we're not as strong as we think we are. Our subconscious is stronger than what we really think we are. So you sit there, and I played this game with myself before, right? And I was driving. I said, look, all day long, I'm going to listen to rap. And then one all day, I'm going to listen to podcasts. By the end of the day, when I was listening to podcasts, I was looking up houses. At the end of the day, me listening to rap all day, I was looking up clothes and cars. And you just don't even realize. So once you start putting yourself in environments of people talking about 6, 7, 8, 9-figure conversations, now you start thinking about that stuff on a regular. And the more you think, the more you do. So you see how it just adds up. So that's the whole point of this podcast, to help you guys think and hear conversations that people like him and I are already having, but now you get a chance to go ahead and have them. But the main thing I want you guys to do from watching this podcast is not only just tapping with the individuals, but make sure you do something with this information. So without further ado, I know it was long-winded, but I really want to make sure y'all understand. But without further ado, I want to introduce someone who is powerful, literally powerful, consistent, solid, like a real OG, like not a hater, somebody that really cares, somebody wants to share a game. Whether you utilize it or not, I'm going to give you the game. I'm going to do what I need to do. And I respect that a lot because there are a lot of people that, been in the game for a little while and they might not want to share certain games.
For sure, gatekeeping.
They want to gatekeep or they look down on what you're doing. Like you're doing it different than how I do it. So you got to be doing it wrong. No, it's a different time. Absolutely. Like we're just doing things a little bit differently, but it's still the same goal. You're someone that actually is knee deep in the business consistently still to this day and have time. And one of my things that, one thing I respect about you and one thing I pride myself in is I like to hear information. This is nothing bad towards anybody that's like started real estate 6 months ago, whatever, or last month. But me personally, I like having conversation with somebody that actually won and lost and won again. Because here's my thought process, right? Here's my thought process. I go through it. You just got into real estate 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and you flipped a house. You flipped one house and you like success. I'm teaching classes. All right. I'm not mad at you. You did have some success. But now I went ahead and copied off your success. And I flipped the house and it didn't go that well. Yo, bro, or yo, sis, I just ran into this L&I issue. What do I do? And you like, I don't know. I ain't never go through that issue. It's like, so mentorship is not always just about getting information of how to make money, but also how to not lose money. So if you're only dealing with people that never fell before, it's like they can't help you get out of your jam. So me personally, I like talking to the OGs that went through, like one of my good friends, and we'll talk about this. You might have did this too, but he went through the recession. He lost some houses. So he was telling me how, when I was like, man, I had like 2 deals and I was going through this bank stuff and it was rough. He was like, bro, I'm telling you, this is the same thing I dealt with in 08. Like it ain't no difference. I was fighting and I was in court with the bank. And he was like, yo, I've been through the same thing. Trust me. I got out of it and I was like, what he said actually was the truth. It really hit. So I like talking to OGs for that reason. So without further ado, I want to introduce my OG, someone who has, a crap ton of units, crap ton of houses, real specific on how he buys houses and his strategy. And I'm excited for him to share. My guy, Calvin Cannon. What's up, bro?
Hey, man.
Mr. Rents Do.
Hey, man. Listen,
how you feeling?
First and foremost, man, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on your platform, talk to your audience. And man, that was an amazing introduction, man. I'm grateful to be here. I'm honored to be here, man. And we're going to get to it and get the people the information. But right off the top, man, you said something that was extremely important in your introduction that I think a lot of people don't understand and get, right? There's a difference between a mentor and a coach.
Okay.
And see that's where people drop the ball. And throughout this podcast, we're going to be dropping a lot of metaphors like that, just explaining, because one of the things that I take pride in is not just real estate and being an investor or a landlord. I take pride in the business of real estate. And that's where most of my success came from, right? So when you think about a coach, right, most people think that the coach and the mentor is the same person. And it's absolutely not, right? The mentor is the person that's giving you information from their experience. So me, in my programs that I do, I start off as the coach. I'm going to teach you the business. I'm going to teach you the things that you need to learn to scale. Then at some point, you're going to transition for me being your mentor, because now I'm going to give you my experience, right? So my experience might be different from somebody else's experience, and then that experience might be different from somebody else's experience. But as the coach, you always start off and you want to have the coaching aspect first, because that's the college course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And granted, college courses do change. You know what I mean? Strategies change, information change, rules and regulations change. But once you get the college course of coaching, now you tag on to your mentor, because now they're going to give you their experience. As a mentor, it's my job to keep learning and growing. Like I was telling you earlier, that I watched you. I seen how you go in different rooms. You get the information. You're investing in yourself. That's your responsibility as a mentor. It's your job to pay for things, to take the lesson so you can bring it back to your community so they don't have to take the next lesson. You know what I mean? So that's that big difference, man. Coach, mentor, get the coach first, get the education. Then that your coach should transition you to a mentorship, which he or she is giving you their experience now.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean?
So what I want to do is I want to get started so people can fully understand. So I want to break this down. I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
And we're going to start off we might hit it out the gate, home run out the gate. But I want to touch on the backstory. Like, so when was, you know, your OG? So what year was the first year you bought a property, and what was the first year you bought a property? Yeah. And what do you think that is different buying properties then and buying properties now? Because what I've realized sometimes is no different.
Yeah. So my the year that I bought my first property was in 1991. All right. So that's when I started real estate 34 years ago. Right. And a lot of people were like, well,
experience, wisdom.
Yes. A lot of people say, like, what was your mindset? Like, how did you get into that? To be honest and transparent with you, I didn't buy my property because I wanted to be an investor. I didn't buy my property because I wanted to get in real estate. I bought my property because of independency. I was 17 years old and I wanted to get out of my parents' house.
That's so dope.
I was going to Temple University, and back then, and Temple might do it today, but I'm not sure. But I knew back then it cost you more money to live on campus if you lived in the state that the college was in. So I was like, man, it's going to cost me almost double to get a room on campus. But if you was outside of the state, it was cheaper because you got grant money and programs. So my grandfather, he was an entrepreneur, so was my father. And my grandfather knew a young lady who was selling a property at 32nd and Cecil B. Moore back in 1991.
I hope you still have that.
Oh man, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it, right? So my grandfather knew that person had the property. I just wanted to get out of my parents' house. I was living, in Mount Airy, row home. I was living on the second floor. My mom, my sister, and my dad at that time before before my mom put him out, and we'll get into that too. But my room was the smallest room. When I graduated out of high school, I wanted to get out. I wanted to be my own man. I'm 17 years old. I'm smelling myself, right? So I said, you know what? I got to get out. My grandfather came to me and said, hey, Miss Shirley, she's selling the property for $5,000. I ain't had no money, right? But here's what happened. I filled out something called a grant stipend form, which was supposed to give me money for books and room and board to go to Temple. Well, I filled out the application late. The semester was over. I still got the check. So the check was for $5,000. I deposited the check in the bank. It cleared. I thought that I had to use it for school, but I was able to withdraw the money out of the bank. I didn't have to write a check because I was 17. I took the money out of the bank, gave it to my grandfather. We went to the duplex. I bought a duplex for $5,000, not as a rental property, but to get out of my parents' house for independency. So I did that. I stayed in there for about a year. It was bad, man. Like the windows was messed up, rats, roaches. I used a sofa to lock my front door. I knew nothing about real estate. I just knew that I wanted my privacy.
Right.
The following year rolled around. Now I'm in my sophomore year of college. A gentleman that was around 32nd and Cecil B. Moore. He was an entrepreneur as well. We'll just say that he had his own pharmaceutical business.
Right.
And he saw me coming back and forth to college, and he stopped me. He was like, yo, I want to buy that property. 17, 18-year-old kid. At this time, I'm 18. I'm like, whatever. Kept it moving. About a week to 2 weeks later, he come by and he's like, yo, I'm ready to buy it. And I'm like, okay. Like, I had no idea like what that meant.
Right.
He had a duffel bag full of money. He opened up the bag and was like, I'll buy it for $60,000. I'm like, what? We went inside. He showed me the money. He had a pamphlet probably like this thick. He told me where to sign. I signed everything. I didn't even go to school that day. I grabbed my duffel bag. I put all my clothes in it, grabbed his bag. I left and went back to my parents. I never even counted the money. That was the most amount of money I've ever seen in my life. I thought I was rich.
So a couple questions on that. Yeah. I don't want to stop the story, but a couple questions on that. One, couple things. One, you didn't count the money.
Never.
Right. You said you just knew it was more than 5,000.
Yes.
It was more than 5,000. The second thing is he already had the paperwork ready, already situated.
Yep.
Did you ever tell him like he already knew your name and everything?
So he asked my name and I filled out my information and paperwork. So back then I realized what he did now, but back in 91, going on to like 92, he filled out the paper. I mean, he grabbed the paperwork. He put like little asterisks on where I needed to sign to fill out. I literally filled this out with him. Mm-hmm. Signed off on it, gave him that. He gave me the bag. I left.
No title insurance, none of that stuff.
Nothing, man.
But back then, people wasn't really on that.
So you know what it is? What I realized later is that back then in 91, you could literally write up your own deed, sign it, the person signed, and you was able to go to City Hall to, I think it was the orphan room, mm-hmm. and you was able to record your deed. And back then, you didn't even need ID. That's how Philadelphia,
how a lot of the stuff was.
Exactly. All the stuff happened in Philadelphia was still in deeds. So in 91, I didn't give him no ID. He went down there, signed it, boom, he was good. But that's how transactions happen in 91.
That's why we do it differently now, because a lot of the goofy stuff.
Exactly.
But this is why I like talking to people that have wisdom, because now when you're trying to figure out why I got title issues on my property, now I understand because people was doing just handshake deals and things like that.
Yeah, and that was one of them. That was a handshake deal.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So now you sold that property. What was that very next step? So my thing is, yo, I know you're enjoying this episode. I know you're getting a lot of game and a lot of value, a lot of information. But is it okay for me to give you even more value? Is it okay for me to give you more information? So if you just said yes, what I want to do is I want to give you access to a free training that I'm having, 100% free. You can log in. If you don't like it, you can log off. It's 100% free. In this training, I'm going to show you guys the 4 steps that I utilize to be able to buy properties, rent properties, make money on property. Like this building we're in right now is 100% mine. And we do that. And I have done that doing those 4 simple steps. So what I want you guys to do is go to fundedandclosed.com, just like the podcast, but fundedandclosed.com. And you're going to be able to register for the free training. Like I said, 100% free. And it's going to give you those 4 steps that I utilize to build my real estate empire. And you can do this exactly where you at right now. So look, we're going to get back to the episode. But before we go ahead and finish, press pause, go to that website, go ahead and RSVP for the training. And I'm going to see you soon. Let's get to it. What was the mindset you have of like, yo, I got 60 grand in? Because you was smelling yourself at first.
Yeah.
With having 5K from a stipend. Now you got 60K that's yours. Straight cash.
It was bad, bro. So I'm smelling myself even more now. So I take the money. I go back to my mom's house. As soon as I get there, my mom, I can't remember exactly what my mom was doing, but I came in and I'm just like, we rich. I'm like, you quit your job. She's like, what are you talking about? Showed her the money. She looked at me and I'm like, what? What's wrong? She immediately went upstairs, put her clothes and stuff on. She grabbed me. She grabbed the money. She took me right to Broad and Champlos. Now, people might not know what that is, but that's the police station.
Yeah.
She basically turned 35th. Me in. Yep. She took me to the 35th. We went inside. She took the bag of money. She gave it to the officer. The officer went in the back. He came back. I went in the back. My mom went in the back. He said, what happened? And I told him, I said, I was living at 32nd and Cecil B. Moore. Gentleman bought the house. He gave me this money. So he put us in the Crown Vic. Back then it was Crown Vics. Put us in the car, took us back to 32nd and Cecil B. Moore. The guy was in there, doing some stuff. The detective went in first, talked to the guy. Then the detective called me and my mom in. We went inside. The detective had conversation in front of my mom, turned around, looked at my mom and said, your son did a real estate transaction. He looked at all the guy still had the paperwork.
She wanted to make sure ain't nothing legal.
She was turning me in, bro. Like,
yeah, that was reckless. That's where I was going at with this. I'm like, oh, mom, you kind of like.
No, she took me right there. So then, and then still, even at that time, I never counted nobody. I don't know if the detective counted it, but I know I still never counted the money. Mm-hmm. So then we came out, we went back to the police station, got back in my mom's car, we came back, and my mom scolded me. To be honest with you, she was like, "Don't ever do nothing like that again." She was like, anything could happen. And, back then, like...
He could have finessed you.
He could have finessed me. But I think the more important thing was for my mom was that a lot of my cousins and family was in a different lifestyle. Mm-hmm. That wasn't my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was never, in the streets doing things like that, but it was my surroundings. Mm-hmm. So she wanted to make sure I wasn't getting pulled into something because,
I understand
what I mean? So that kind of gave her a shell shock. We came back, man. And I feeling myself, bought my first car, gave my mom some money, gave my sister some money. And now at this point, maybe like about 3 weeks go by, it hit me again. You still back in your mom's house. Dang. So I moved from being on the second floor in a small bedroom in the back. I moved into the basement. So now I'm feeling like, all right, I'm in the basement.
Got a little something.
Yeah, got me a nice little convertible Mustang 5.0 out back. I got my bed in the basement, had a water pit, had a water bed with the lights all around it. I was living crazy, right? But then what happened is that in those type houses, the washer and dryer is in the basements, in the laundry room. Mm-hmm. So now even when I wanted to have company and do something, my mom and my sister kept coming through my bedroom to wash and clothes like every other day. So I was like, I can't do this. So eventually I had the breaking point again. I went back into the bag. Now I count the money. I had about maybe $10,000 left.
Woo! What was this time period? Like, was this a couple months, a year, 2 years?
It was almost about a year. I would say between 6 to 8 months.
So you stretched about 50 over 8 months buying car, giving out money and stuff like that.
Man, I was doing dumb stuff, man.
But like 50,000 back in '92, that's a lot of money.
So I thought, but when I tell you I thought I was rich, bro, I told my mom, quit your job. I got us. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, boom, here. You know what I mean? And all the money had bank bands on it. Like it wasn't like street money. He had it. No, it was all fresh. It was all fresh. And I'm just, hey man, I'll take this. The next Sunday, here, take this. Go. You know what I mean? Go to the market, grab some groceries. I never took the time to say, let me count this and put it in the bank. And I had a bank account because the 5,000 came from the bank account. Yeah. Never put in. I never put in the bank, man. So I got frustrated. I went back in the bag. I had 10,000 left. I wasn't even smart. I didn't buy no clothes, nothing. I bought the car. I was giving people money. You know what I mean? I was eating out every day, fast food, stuff like that, but never really nothing that was responsible. Still, the good thing is I stayed in school though. You know what I mean? So I did stay in school. I took the last 10K, got a job because I was like, damn, you know, the money's going down. I got to get more responsible. So I got a job, took the last 10K. I bought my second property, 4400 block of Germantown Avenue, a quad. You across the street from me.
Bro, I own a crib on that block.
I know.
Oh, you know? I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute.
So I had, so there's a church on the corner. I had the one to the left of the church, to the left of that, and to the and I skipped over that one, and then I had the empty lot.
We talked about this before.
Yeah. We did. Yep. So that was my second group of properties right there.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. So I bought that for like 7,000. But now I went through a title company. I actually I didn't have a realtor or nothing, but I did go to the title company, and then they gave me the paperwork. The seller was somebody that I worked with at the job. It was their family member. We signed off on it. We went to title company. I got the title insurance. And after I closed, I moved in the next day, and I lived in every unit in that building until I fixed it up on my own. No OSHA 30, no nothing. I was putting duct tape on light switch wires. I knew nothing, but I knew that I was out of my parents' house and I wanted to fix it up. That's my first property that I physically did work to. Painted every unit on my own. I put down carpet. Back then we didn't have, like the vinyl luxury floors. I put carpet down, commercial carpet. Didn't do too much hard construction, but I held that for quite some time. I bought that for 7,000, held it for quite some time, and then I sold it for like 105, 110,000. Yeah.
For some time, like what do you think that gap was? 5 years, 10 years? Like,
probably about 10.
About 10 years. That's a good little flip though.
No, man.
Long term, but like at that time period, like, and one thing, this other guy I know, he like I was telling you, he went through a lot of stuff. He gave me some game.
Yeah.
He said like he regrets all the house he sold.
But
then also he said you can't beat yourself up because at that moment you needed to do whatever you needed to do at that moment.
What's interesting as you say that, because my first real estate deals was my first lessons in real estate. Do you know? And I know because you're from the area, but let's say I kept that 32nd and Cecil B. More property right now today. Bro, I'm up.
Bro, I own stuff over there. I know exactly what
I'm up. If I would have kept the one on Germantown Ave, I'm up. I'm up. So my lesson
came in at 450.
That's what I'm saying. 450, 475. Right. And that's the thing. And that's what's the one of the most important things. And one of the things you said in the intro is that you got to get that information, man. You got to get that coach. You got to get that mentor, because had I had a mentor back then, I probably would have held them. I wouldn't have sold it, because somebody would have said, yo, don't sell this. Yeah. You know what I mean? I for me, I wasn't in the mindset of I want to be an investor. It was just I want to get out of my parents' house, and I'm stumbling across this money, so I'm trying to repeat the process. You know what I mean?
So my next question I have, so you do a strategy that a lot of people know about, they love it, but they too scared to say they love it. They call it boring. It's not as sexy, but it's consistent and it pays.
For sure.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the strategy that I see you doing, we talked about, is buying like single family homes, or maybe like duplexes, but like you're not really into trying to get a big apartment complex and things like that. But what I honestly say is I think I have a mixture, but the singles, the people that moved to my singles, they still there. Like I had, a couple little situations, but majority of they still live there and they still pay in. They think that's their house. So I want you to touch on that.
Yeah. So what's interesting is you hit it right on the nose. So what I do is something I call the cash flow roadmap, right? And my cash flow roadmap is I buy, flip, hold. And inside of that buy, flip, hold, that involves me getting single family homes. So, and everybody knows that in 2008, we had the market crash, right? And then after 2008, we had COVID like 3 years ago. So during COVID, the interest rates dropped down to 4% for DSCR loans. Yeah. That's the lowest that it's ever been. My first DSCR loan, boom, was 13, 14%.
People will cry right now for that.
So they wouldn't make it, right? So when people were like, oh, the interest rate 7%, 8%, I'm just sitting back like, okay, what's the problem?
Yeah, I made it work at 13.
13, 14%, right? And still cash flow. So when COVID kicked in 3 years ago, The DSCR interest rates dropped to 4%, unheard of. I thought the banks had a fluke. I took money out of every pocket that I had. I mean, everything, my IULs, bank accounts, leveraging different properties. And I bought a plethora of single family homes, just all single family homes, DSCR, no construction, just right in 15, 20% down. We probably bought 15, 20 properties. Now, fast forward, we're coming out of COVID. Some of those properties I had to hold and carry, right? So I carried them for like a year, maybe a year and a half. But then now your number one retail buyer in real estate is a single family home buyer, right? FHA, NACA, all these different programs. So now I go in, I clean them up, I put these properties on the market to be sold. I take the money from off of those properties being sold. I'm either running it through a 1031 exchange or I'm running it through my IUL. I'll borrow against that and now I buy my multifamilies.
That's smart. That's smart.
It's crazy.
That's smart. You know Island Dime?
No.
Island Dime, he a developer. He like everything. He sells to like he's a developer, but then he was running for mayor a little bit. He do a lot, but he created Fishtown. Like he do a lot. He do a lot.
Yep.
But he randomly popped up. I had a networking event. He randomly popped up at the network event. The craziest thing, he just said, I seen this online. So he brought like his whole political party and popped up at the event. Yeah. And I was like, you want to speak? He said, yeah, sure. This is when he was running for mayor and everything, right? So I know why he really wanted to.
Yeah, for sure.
But long story short,
votes.
yeah. But long story short, he said we was asking about the single family and multis, and he was like, I love the multi. I love the development, all that. He said, but don't sleep on the single family houses.
Yeah, man.
And we was like asking why. He said because the single family houses are the easiest transitioning investment. He said when you have a 5-unit, 10-unit building, you only have one type of buyer that can buy that.
That's correct.
And he said the second thing is it's hard to pull money out of certain these investments because of the banks and look at it a little different. He said for me personally, he said my single family houses helped me develop into that.
That's correct.
Because now if I need money, I can just sell off 3 of these. Yep. It's hard to sell off a 20-unit apartment building.
That's correct.
He said, but I can sell, okay, look, I need money. I can sell off 5 single family houses. Yeah. 200, whatever the case may be is. And then it's easy to refinance. It's easy to rent. He said the whole process is easier. Yep. He said, yes, you have to play the volume game, but that volume helps you get into the bigger stuff. So what you saying remind me like what he was saying.
Yeah, man.
And he's somebody older too. Like, so the wisdom be coming from the older guys.
Yeah, man. Those single family homes, I mean, if I had to look at my rental portfolio today, my longest tenant is a single family home tenant. And a lot of times, when I coach, the things that I like to do for me is my excitement doesn't come from just buying and doing a process. That's what I enjoy. Mm-hmm. But my excitement comes from taking a tenant in a single family home and then turning them to a home buyer, right? If they've been with me for 5 to 8 years, my goal is, hey, are you working on your credit? Yeah, I got my credit together and we're thinking about buying. Why not buy where you at? Mm-hmm. Right? And most of the tenants, they're okay with that. You know what I mean? They comfortable. Their kids is going to school there. They grew up there. They feel comfortable at home. And especially I stay up on top of my properties. So, if they've been in there for 10 years, of course, it's not going to look like something I just renovated, yesterday.
Yeah.
However, it's home to them.
Yeah.
It's home to them. And my longest tenant that we've ever had in my company is single family homes. The turnover, man, is like the least amount of time somebody stay in a single family home for me is 5 years. And then the longest person's been in there right now is probably about 9 to 10 years. That's
dope. My first tenant I got from Craigslist, he's still with me. That was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
5. If this is 2025, 6 or 7 years, something like 6 years ago. Yeah, he's cool. He's super cool. And then also, he bartends as well. So, we had an event-based business. So when somebody needs a bartender, I call him. So I just toss some extra money to make sure I know he got the bread, but things like that. So just so people to understand, like how many units or how many houses do you have? And I want to touch on that too.
Yeah. So right now we just closed 2 to 3 deals yesterday and the day before yesterday. So right now we hovering in the 85, 88 doors right now is what we have.
Nice, congrats.
Right. But that's not as important as
I was about to say. So we had a conversation. I feel the same way. You said don't focus too much on the doors, but focus more so on the cash flow. I think you call it like cash flow quadrant or something like that.
Yeah. So what it is that at one point I had over 100 and something doors, and then I started selling them off because I realized that is not the quantity of the door, is the quality of the door, right? So if you got 100 doors and the average tenant that you have, it might be 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, you're looking at 100 times 2, which is 200 people you have to deal with monthly, whether if it's you doing with them directly, or if you got a property management, or it's another company does it, it's still 200 people that you have to be responsible for your business. Mm-hmm. If I have 50 doors times 2, that's 100 people that I'm dealing with, whether if it's me or if I have a system in place. But if I'm making the same money with 50 doors that I'm making with 100 and something doors, then, you know, why would I need 200 doors? It just doesn't make sense. A lot of people focus more on the quantity because it sounds sexy, it sounds good, it sounds attractive. But it's not the quantity, it's the quality. You know, I know people right now that got over 100 and something doors, and they're cash flowing $250 a door. $200. Right? And then I know people right now who got a portfolio of 10 to 15, and they're getting $500-$600 a door. So they're actually winning. You know what I mean? And that's where I think people get a little caught up with.
No, that's a fact. My whole goal when I first was getting started was like I wanted 100, 200,000 doors. Like I used to write that down in my notebook, and then as time went on, and once you start getting 5 or 10 or 50, you start realizing like one is a lot of people to talk to and deal with.
Sure.
You have some people that you forget you own them. You know, you have some people that you know you might talk to a little more frequently. But what I realized is like, yo, I gotta buy these houses, fix them. I gotta do this to make $200, $300. So I started thinking about, all right, how can I make more money from each door? Like case in point, like how can we, you know, strategize and, you know, maybe focus on areas where I can get more rent and maybe don't over rehab, like little things like this. So I want you to touch on that because I think you're really good.
You know what that is too. Boom, what a lot of people don't get is that you went back and you finished your breakfast. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times people focus on the growth. I want to grow, but then they leave out the structure of their business. So what you realize that you have to go back and you have to make the structure more concrete. Because if you keep building and building and you don't have no structure, you're building, you know, your business is going to fall, it's going to collapse, right? So what a lot of times people don't get and they don't understand is that when you're getting into real estate, there's a couple goals that you have to focus on. And one of the goals is you got to figure out what is your minimum cash flow goal. And I tell people the minimum cash flow goal doesn't mean quit your 9 to 5 the day of tomorrow, right? But what you do is you sit down and you say, okay, this is what my monthly expenses are, right? It can be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And the average person, the average 9 to 5 person working, your monthly expense is probably $3,500 to $5,000, right? So, and that's just on the average. Now you got some people that's higher than that, right? But on the average is that you take that, you times it by 2. So if it's $5,000 times 2, your minimum cash flow goal is $10K. So if you can hit your minimum cash flow goal, half of that is taking care of your expenses. The other half, you're going to reinvest. Now you're in a position where you're saying, okay, my bills are being paid for. I got the money to invest. I don't need 200, 300 doors because now I understand the business. The business is I'm hitting my minimum cash flow goal, right? And one thing that you said extremely important, you continue to buy, but you leave more money on the table, right? There's a couple investors that I talk to on a regular, right? And we have conversation. The conversation is, how can I go back and squeeze the bricks, right? Because if you keep buying, but you never pull the maximum dollar amount out of the property, you're doing nothing but having growth, but you're it's like a foam cup with a hole in it. The money's leaking out, right? So one thing that I do in my properties, the properties that I typically buy, always are duplexes. They might have a garage. They might have a finished basement. So now in the city of Philadelphia, when you have your renter's license, if my renter's license is for unit 1 and 2, I might rent that out to Section 8 veterans, or program or even conventional. But now I'm also renting out the basement, right, to something called the neighborhood app. I'm getting $200 for storage in the basement. I'm getting $200 for storage on garages because all my properties have garages. So now I'm liquidating stronger out of this one particular property versus just worrying about just the tenant. And that's how you squeeze the limit, squeeze the bricks.
Wait, we're not going to just breeze past that. You call it the neighborhood app?
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called the neighborhood app. You go on the neighborhood app and you can put on your garages, you can put on your basements, and people can rent that for space. So it's almost like having storage, but it's at your residential rental property. So think about it. Every property you have, like the building that we in right now, you got a basement. If you got access, right? But think about this: you're buying, but you sitting on $200, probably positive cash flow coming out that basement. Right? Exactly. Or if you buy a property, that's one of the reasons why I pivot from certain areas because I can't squeeze the bricks as much as I would like. The area that I'm in, every property has a garage. So when I'm mapping out my blueprint of rentals, I'm also like right now, I'm about to frame up tomorrow in one of my properties is a duplex. The framer is framing up 2 bedrooms. The basement is framing up as just a vanilla box. Then I have a 2-car garage in that basement. Then across from the 2-car garage, I have another lot that holds 2 more cars. So now I'll get $200 for the basement. I'll get $150 to $175 per garage because it's a double garage, and I'll get another $100 per parking lot across from me just to park there. So I never rent out the basement to my tenants.
That's high.
They don't get tenants do not get extra space for the basements. I give them everything they need inside of the unit.
Yeah, my first 2 properties, I finished the basement, and I realized I shouldn't have done that because, one, it kind of hurts you when they treat the basement like it's a basement.
Yeah,
it's like, yo, I just went and put floor down, tile, sheetrock, and you just treat it just like it's a basement.
Yep.
And then the second thing is like, one property, in Strawberry Mansion, they say, like my grandma says, we were literally living on a river.
Yep.
So like it flooded, like,
Yep.
and I couldn't really figure out. And then I had my guy Derek, his name Priceless Basements. He came in and I said I had a flood, and he was like, "Yo, I'm telling you, it's from the water table coming up."
That's correct.
He said the price he said was super duper cheap. I just stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
And one time the tenant called me. She said, "Yo, the basement flooding again." She said, "But this might sound crazy. I think the water's coming from under the ground." And I'm listening to her like, this mother was right.
Yes.
So I had to call him back, and he had to go ahead and redo it. So, but the basement was finished, so it messed up all the sheetrock. We had to redo the basement over again because now I already gave her a finish, but I got to finish it again.
You got to stick to your
commitment.
commitment.
So now we don't need to touch them.
Yeah. Yep. So what I do is, you got to keep in mind in Philadelphia, there's a lot of water underneath the properties, and back then a lot of people didn't do French drains when they was building properties. So now you either have to do a French drain trench, with a sump pump. Or you have to put a dehumidifier in your basement because if not, you're going to get the mildew and you're going to get the mold.
Yeah, I've dealt with both of that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
So my next question for you, which a lot of people, so you got 85 doors. You've been doing this for some time. I know your first 2 properties were with cash. You were reinvesting, things like that. What is your thought process on debt, loans, whether it's hard money or things? Because a lot of people, I got actually 2 before we close. I got 2 questions that's going to guide to where the environment is today with new investors. Like, what's your thoughts on debt, whether it's hard money loans, lenders, or credit cards? Like, what's your old idea just on debt in general and acquisitions?
Yeah, that's good. So, one thing I'm going to say is this: you just have to understand what you're doing, right? You have good debt, you have bad debt, and then you have mismanaged debt. And that's where people lose it at. It's not because getting a loan for the property is bad. If you understand what your system is, right? So getting into real estate, you got to understand what's my end goal. If you buying something cash, it's still debt. And I think that's where people get confused at, right? So for me, I'm an advocate of hard money loans because I can get in quicker. I can get out. I have the experience. I know how to handle it, right? So I know how to manage the debt properly. If you're not sure on how to manage the debt, that means you mismanage it, right? And when we talked about like monthly goals, right? So when people say, "Oh, I want to make $100K a month, I want to make $50K a month," right? It's like you struggling managing $5K a month with your job. So if I gave you $50,000, how can you trust that you're going to manage that properly? They really can't. So for them, getting into debt of a hard money loan may not be the best answer right away, right? Get your feet wet a little bit, right? People say, well, debt can move faster. You can. A lot of people do something called buy, live, die. I'm sorry, borrow, live, die, right? So I'm going to borrow as much as I can, and then I'm going to live it out, and then when I die, the debt goes away. Yeah, that's true to a certain extent, but you still got to have a plan, right? Me personally, I don't have a problem with the debt because it's good debt. If I was just starting off in real estate as an investor, I may do maybe a cash deal, right? Because I'm only buying what I can afford. But the reality of it, to be transparent, is even if you do a cash deal, you took the cash from somewhere. If you took it off a credit card, it doesn't matter. You're still in debt. The house is not free and clear. You still have debt. And that's where people get confused. New investors, I say, get with somebody that understands what your goal is and let them show you their system. And then when they show you their system might be wholesale a little bit, build up your bank, buy one property cash, right? Understand the business, liquidate that property. Now get into the game of funding and get into the game of having more debt, because now you can understand it and now you can service the debt properly. You know what I mean? I know that was a lot that I spit out there.
No, that was good.
Yeah.
I think that one of our biggest mistakes that happened with this past 2 or 3 years is the credit card wave, the funding wave.
Yeah, man.
I don't believe anything. You had to be like a super premium individual to get something for nothing and still be strong-minded.
Yeah.
Some people get something for nothing and they don't understand hard work. They don't understand, you know what I mean? So like some people are like, yo, I'm gonna just apply for a credit card, get 50,000, 100,000, buy this house. And it's just gonna be like, it's just too easy for them. Yeah. And it's not that I want people to struggle. It's just like some people get things too easily and they mismanage it. They're like, oh, I can just get another 50. It's just like it's nothing.
Yep.
Like, no, like manage this right and this can grow into other things. So that's one of the things I think this credit card stuff is talked about too frequently and is given out too easily, which means people mismanage things they don't truly understand or care about. They don't really understand the funding. They just like, yo, this guy can get me some credit cards. And they don't really they're mismanaging because they didn't really have to work for it. So they're like, I have people that DM me, yo, I messed up 100,000. You think you can help me get another 100,000?
Right.
First, I'm not the funding guy first, but then the second thing is like, no, bro. Like, so you can be 200 grand in debt?
Yeah. And you know what it is too, Boone, is that people don't have a plan.
Yeah.
People get so caught up with what they see on social media. They get caught up on what they see other people do. But, you know, at one point, if you sitting on $100,000 in liquid funds, you may have messed up 15, 20 before you got to the 100, but you learned along the way.
Yeah.
So when people get like the credit card, you know, thing and the whole era of let me get the credit card and I'm gonna liquidate the card, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's a strategy. But if you don't have a plan, you don't have an exit strategy, you don't have any idea what you're gonna do with the money, why do you need the money?
I call it premature funding.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You got funded prematurely. Yeah, you're not ready for this.
You're not ready. And not only that, but you need to have a plan in place, right? So when we talk about real estate, right, I always say there's a few different team members you need and the different strategies that you need to get into real estate, right? And I always say, you know, you got to have the best of the best, right? And then even watching you, like when you do things you want, it's premium, right? Everything is premium. You want the best of the best. So when you're getting into real estate, you got to be the best of the best. So the first thing that people do is, oh, you know, I want to jump in and I want to buy this property. No, you don't even have the team and the tools in place for you to do this. The first thing you need is you need to understand what is your goal? What's your plan? What do you want to do with real estate? Yeah, I want to be in real estate, but why? Why do you want to be in real estate? What's your end goal? All right, here's my end goal. Okay, now you got the end goal. Now you have to put your team together. The first person on your team to be a coach or mentor, right? And then we talked about earlier, people don't know the difference between a coach and a mentor, but you got to learn the difference because you need the best of the best, right? The coach is the person that's going to give you the skill sets as college, as a course, as strategies, is direct information that you need to execute. The mentor is going to give you the experience, right? Wisdom. To make sure you make less lessons, right? The next person on your team, after you get that, is that you're going to need an attorney or a lawyer. And guess what? People don't even know the difference between an attorney and a lawyer, right? People think, oh, I got a lawyer. But the difference is that the lawyer can't show up in court for you because they didn't pass the bar. The lawyer can only do documentations for you. And when you have to go to court, the lawyer now have to transfer you over to an attorney because the attorney passed the bar. So you need the best of the best when you're doing your business, right? After you get your lawyer or your attorney, the next person you need is an accountant or a CPA. People don't even know the difference between an accountant and a CPA, right? An accountant can do your paperwork, but they didn't get certified. They don't have they don't have the necessary license that the state is requiring them for them to be a CPA, right? And then after you do that, then you have to find a funding partner, and that's how you scale in real estate. So if you don't have these things in place, if you don't have these systems, you're just spinning your wheels trying to learn real estate, right? Find somebody that's doing it. Somebody, and I call myself the pull-up king. Before you sign up for any program with me, pull up, see what I do. I'm in real estate every day. Investigate the person that you want to get involved with, but more importantly, understand what you know, what you want, and what you understand, and that's how you become successful. When people
that's
get
really
caught up.
good. That's really. I'm glad you touched on that. And then one thing I wanted to add for people that's thinking like, I need to have my lawyer on his $10,000 a month retainer or CPA. Like, he's not meaning that. He's meaning like, have these contacts in your Rolodex. Yes. Like, have these people ready. Right. I don't want people to think like, damn, I need $20,000 a month to keep these people. Like, you're not Jay-Z. Like, we're just talking about have these people some resources. Because when you in a jam, you want to be able, I can call somebody. But if you just like, I don't have no resources, no contacts, no phone numbers, then that's gonna be bad for you. But I really appreciate this conversation because, you know, sometimes people don't like some of the things like me and you may say because it's not sexy. I'm not telling nobody to go get this $100,000, $200,000 credit card and then run their movie. You know, and then for me to be honest with you, like my credit has been up and down. You know, when I first got started, my credit score was a 500. Then my credit score, the highest my credit has ever been was like a 776. Then some crap that I didn't even realize why I'm knee deep. Like this is a couple years ago, why I'm knee deep in real estate. Some stuff happened and my credit score dropped back down to like a 580, 600. But stills had to be done. And I think the best thing that can happen to somebody is your back get put against the wall. For sure. So I had to think of this deal still got to close. How can I go ahead and do it? And that's when I started understanding the concept of getting good deals at a good price because what you know with lenders, if the price is cheap enough, they'll fund it.
For sure.
I literally got a deal I'm about to buy next week right there at the corner. They're 100% financing. And the reason why it's 100% financing because they said you got this thing so cheap. It's like
the numbers make sense.
The numbers make sense. But if we focus on and because credit cards are so easy to come about, people are like, I'll pay anything because the credit card won't pay for it. No, you're paying for it. It's still debt.
And you know what it is too, just to break down numbers real quick off the top of my head. Somebody can say, I'm gonna get a $50,000 credit card and I'm gonna buy this property, you know, Midwest or Cleveland, and I'm paying $50,000 for it, right? And then I'm gonna put $50,000 in the rehab. So now I'm all in $100,000, but I don't have a mortgage. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm getting all cash flow. No, you're not.
So our payments on a minimum payment.
You're not getting no cash flow, right? Because here's the thing, $100,000, right? And if you're bringing in, let's just say $1,500 a floor on an average on a duplex, that's $3,000 a month. If you take that $3,000 a month divided by that 100, you know what I'm saying? You it's going to take you 33 months just to pay back the credit card. So that's about 2.5 years. So you're not really cash flowing until you pay back the debt who helped you service to get that quote unquote free and clear property. The property's not free and clear. So a lot of people get inside their head that, well, if I buy cash, I'm in a better situation. No, you're not. You still got to pay. You still got to pay. And people forget that part. They don't want to tell you where the money sourced from. I got the 50 off the credit card. Yes, so you got to pay the credit card back. And if you blow that, now you're in trouble.
People were not talking about that because, you know, when you get a mortgage, it's attached to the property, got a lien. Judgment, you got to pay it back. People like, I'm going to get the 50 of the card. They're not even intention on paying it back. And that's why they like, no, it's free and clear. It's not free. You still got the debt on the card. Well, I wasn't really you wasn't planning on paying that back. And the thing about it is, people have to understand is like, you're just putting yourself in a jam to get funded again. Now you're in the system. Now they want to fund you again and things like that. So, but this is good. My next question, last question I have for you, like what's your, and we had talked about this too. And I'm at the 50-50 on this. I grew into, I feel like, so like, hey, so I know you're enjoying the episode so far, and you're probably hearing some of the plays, but you might be like, my credit isn't there. I don't have the best credit. I may not be able to run some of the plays they're saying. So what I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity for free credit repair. I said it, 100% free credit repair. I'm going to drop the website below where you can go ahead and get your credit repaired for free. All you have to do is have the credit monitoring software so that way you can pull your reports and this will be fixed for free. All you have to do is go to nochargecreditrepair.com. It is 100% free. All you have to do is have the credit monitoring software so you can actually pull the report and actually see what the score is on all three bureaus. And then this system is going to fix your credit for free. So again, nochargecreditrepair.com, and you guys can get access to that. Look, there is no reason why you can't win. This is the link for you to get your credit repaired. You're watching a podcast episode where it's showing you how to make money, how to get funded. There's no reason why you can't win. So go ahead and click the link, pause this episode, go ahead and sign up, and then get back to the episode and keep learning, keep winning, keep growing. Let's get it. I feel like I'm a little wiser than I actually am, like age-wise, and I feel like I got tired of things earlier than maybe I should have. So, full disclosure, like not full disclosure, but we talk about construction. That's the question I have. So I know you don't either you don't do or you don't like doing like these full gut renovations and things like that.
Yeah.
And at first, when we talked years ago, I'm like, no, rip everything out. You like, nah, man, everything don't need to go. I'm like, no, rip this whole house down, rebuild this thing back up.
Yeah.
And I'm 31 now, and now I'm feeling like you like, yo, this is like, how can we piece this thing together? Like, if it needs to get gutted, it needs to get gutted.
For
but
sure.
like, do I want to do a 3,000, 4,000 square foot gut like I did before? No, like I fully gut like 1,000 square foot. I was like, I'm cool with that. Let's in and out. But like, do I really want to do these big 4-unit full guts no more? Nah, I'm tired now.
So here's the thing, and a lot of people don't know my entire track record. But when I started in real estate in '91, I've also did new construction. I've did full gut renovations. I've did semi gut renovations. I've did a couple conversions. But my soft spot has always been either a turnkey or less renovation possible. And the reason being is because when you start looking at numbers, right? When I did the new construction thing, it's not like how people do new construction today. Like they were talking like, late 90s, early 2000s, right? So we didn't go on the ground.
That was a whole different,
it was a total different environment. We didn't go on the ground. We didn't do underpinning. We cleared out the houses off the block. We dropped the slab. We had 2 different contractors come in, drop the first floor. Another contractor company came in and dropped the second and the third floor. We tied it together. We was done.
Modulars. Yeah.
But it wasn't. And here's the thing: the modulars today are different even from the modulars we did back then. Now modulars is being done with like storage containers and things.
Yeah, they dropping the one on Broad Street next to my building. I saw them build it. They literally dropping off. It looked like trailer parks. They just start stacking trailer parks on top of each other.
Yeah. So it was different from how we was doing it back then. If I had to take a choice of what I like today, right? Me today, from my experience, I enjoy my time, right? So if you go to a property, because you have all this experience behind you, you can walk through a property and say, okay, I'm going to take this wall out. I'm going to do this kitchen, this bathroom. I'm going to freshly paint it. I'm going to drop a new floor. I'm going to drop some new lights. And I'm going to be very, very close to the same ARV that you would have gotten, somebody else would have gotten if they did a full gut rehab, right? So nowadays, and I try to tell, I mean, you had this comment a long time ago. I tried to tell people lyrics when I was like, I don't do full guts. They were like, man, you crazy. But guess what? I built relationships with appraisers. I built relationship with lenders that if I'm in a particular zip code, right? So my strategy might not work in 19132. It might not work in 19140. But it definitely works in 19150. It definitely works in 19119 and 19118 because I have the neighborhood as my product, right? So real estate is always about location, right? So somebody who does a full gut renovation in 19132 or 19140, they're going to probably get, 450, 475, right? Tearing it all the way down, took them 6 months, whatever it take to do it. I do a half renovation in 19150, takes me 90 days to do the renovation, and I'm still up 500,000, 550.
And you didn't spend as much. You still got more money left in your pocket.
You want to hear something crazy? And people who come out and see me and they know that this is the proof. I've never spent over $100,000 in a rehab after 2001, 2002.
That house that we talking about on Jefferson Ave, I spent almost 200.
It's crazy.
And way over 150, 180, whatever that number was.
And across the street, I spent probably less than 10K. But it was back in the 90s though. So it's a different. I mean, and the price of materials and all that. I spent 10K out of pocket working a 9 to 5. Right? Currently right now, and I'm in the middle of 2 different projects right now. My highest rehab budget right now today is $68K. Highest.
That's cool.
Highest.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
That all day.
And guess what? I'm planning on trying to pay myself GC fee of $20K of that.
That's really good.
You feel what I'm saying?
You spending 40 some change really on the...
Because what it is, a lot of people bank on the refi to get paid on the back end. I'm trying to get paid during the process. So I don't have to refi as heavy and my cash flow is stronger.
That's smart. This is what people need to really understand and hear. I and people don't really understand that you can make a product just as good without fully gut. Now, I'm play devil's advocate. Like I said, I'm 50-50. Like this, but this is the only unit that fully gut renovated. All the rest of them, we lipstick them. We put them together. I think one unit in here, we had to rip the cylinders. We had to rip the whole ceiling and redo the whole ceiling. But everything else is like, I don't say patch job. It's a bad word, but it's updated. Let's put it like that.
But guess what though? When you start building a relationship with appraisers and the lenders, and you stay in one pocket. So a lot of people say, well, I'm investing anywhere and everywhere. Yeah, that's great. But you're not putting in reps for people to recognize.
Yeah.
So when you buy a property and you want to go rehab it, if you hit your main cores, new bathroom, new kitchen, floors, fresh paint, new up-to-date lights, your exterior looks good, right? Curb appeal, and the room is good, you don't have to rip it all the way down. I promise you don't.
No.
And guess what? That appraiser is going to come in. Most appraisers, and I'm going to touch on this real quick. Most appraisers, what people don't understand is that an appraisal is an opinion.
Yeah. It says opinion of value.
It's a BPO, it's a broker price opinion, right? What happens is that we can have two appraisers walk one property and we get two different answers. And the reason being is because you can have quartz countertop, the appraiser might think it's granite. You can have, luxury vinyl floors that you got on sale at Home Depot, Lowe's, or Floor and Decor. The appraiser might think you spent $10K for them floors. Yeah. They don't know. And it's not anything against appraisers. It's just that it's their opinion. Yeah. They come in, it look good, you build a relationship. They see that you're in the same zip code doing the same stuff. They're going to give you your number. They're going to give you your number.
That's a fact. That's 100% fact. Yeah. But when I say I play devil's advocate, one, because it saves me some time, is less work. Let's say me something less work, and then now your guys can come in and just do your thing. You don't even have to physically be there. Like, yo, listen, y'all run that. Y'all know how I like it. Painted this color, do it this color. You know, lay there on the floors. Yeah. When you start getting into them like full gut renovations, duplex, triplexes, 4 units, all them things, like you won't want to have to be there. Like, because you need to make sure, you won't want to be there, especially if you're newer. But the other thing I would say is, I realized that the houses that I lipstick, not all, but some of the houses I lipstick, I've had more tenant calls versus the ones that I full gut, and they the first person to run water in them pipes or turn light switches on. But read devil's advocate. When you lipstick, you lipstick cosmetic, but you still make sure the mechanicals is right. That's correct. That's where I messed up at. Like one lipstick I did, we didn't update the electric, and I'm like, that's still good. Power. Once all these TVs and all this stuff started jumping off, it just kept blowing. It kept blowing. So I had to go back and we had to rewire, like open up the walls a little bit and rewire. Fish, exactly. So I would say lipstick, but still make sure the mechanicals is right.
So the number one thing is, you can lipstick, but you got to do your mechanicals and you take care of the core values, kitchen, bath, bedrooms looking good. And then the other thing I'll say though is that when people do the lipstick jobs, that they have to understand that when you put a tenant in there, you want to know where everything is. So when I do a lipstick and I open up a wall, if I start seeing issues, I'm opening it all up, because yes, it's kind of a can of worms that you open up. But once you see an issue, you can't ignore it. You know what I mean? The other thing too is, and this is very, very important, most people who do lipsticks and have issues, you have to look at the area that you're buying the property in, right? So when I buy in a better area, right, a lot of my properties already come with ductwork. So now when I'm doing my HVAC, if the HVAC guy can tie into that ductwork, that just saves me money. A lot of the properties that I'm buying, the service is already 120, 220. I don't have to rip all the service out. The service line is good. So when you're buying properties that need more love and attention, you got to go through the full gut process. But when you go to neighborhoods where the homeowners actually took care of the properties, you don't have to do as much work. So you got to do that pivot. And I tell people all the time, start where you can afford, but don't stay there, because your growth in real estate involves pivoting. And if I started in 3-2 and I stayed in 3-2, I'm always going to have the same problems in 3-2. I'm not actually taking my portfolio to another pivot. I'm not diversitizing. People think a diverse portfolio means having single family homes, multifamily homes, having some Airbnbs, having different things. That's one portion of it. But the business of it is, did you transition from having a DE rental to a CD rental to now eventually having a BC rental? You got to transition your portfolio, because then the business becomes a little bit easier.
That's some game. That's some real game. Because even with me, I've jumped into different, pretty much I'm like between 2 zip codes, like this zip code and then 3-2. But like I said, I told you about the one house uptown, and then I did a house in Jersey, and I'm noticing certain things, like when I'm in, like, let's say 3-2, like that's a gut. It ain't no ifs about it. Like
There's no question.
It's a gut.
Right.
It ain't no new floors, new joints. It's a gut. But like you said, it's more wearing down. The person probably ain't care. It's just I get what you mean. It's a little different. So at what point? This is my last question. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
At what point do you think someone should start transitioning, pivoting into I don't say better neighborhood, but like a BC or
a better strategy?
A better strategy, like after like the first and second house, or they should like stick with it a little longer.
Nope. So your first 2 projects is your reps, right? If you can knock off 2, understand what you did, and you got the team, you got that coach, you got that mentor. After you do 1 or 2, pivot, because here's the thing. People get so acclimated and accustomed to the low entry number. Oh man, I only paid 30 for this. You know, you like so when I go to closing, right? I'm at the point where I'm putting down 10%. So if my property I'm picking up is 200,000, so I pick them up between 150 and 250, right? So I'm putting down 15,000 all the way up to 25,000. Just the deposit. Then I got another 10, 15,000 for closing costs, which a lot of people don't talk about, right?
Yeah,
they don't talk about those numbers, right? But then when you go into the entry, when you go to another area, you picking up something for 60,000. So even if you do 20% down, you at 12,000. And then with your closing costs, you're at my 10% deposit. So you might be 20,000 down for that entry level. I might be 48, 50,000 up here. So they like, Calvin, you putting down too much money when you could have bought 2 down here. Yeah, I could have. But now you're ready to do a full gut renovation for 2 properties that's going to take you a year.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do a 90-day renovation for a property that's going to take me less time. And guess what? I have I have a better quality product, not because I've renovated better than you.
Yeah.
You could be in that area and have Taj Mahals, and you could have, the wine coolers, the lights, the LEDs floating. Like you could have the better quote unquote aesthetic property. I got the neighborhood over you. I got a backyard. I got the school district, and my rehab may not be as top line as yours, but I got the location. People gonna come in yours and they be like, oh, I like this. But then they might come outside and be like, that's a little risky. People might come in mine and be like, oh, it's not as fancy as the one I just saw, but I can sit on my porch. I can go out back. I can barbecue on the deck. I can park my car in the garage or at least behind the property, right? So I say get your reps in to those 1 or 2s and then figure out where you want to be in your business. For me and my business, I want less headaches. I want my tenants, which I call my tenants family, because they're not just a tenant to me, right? It's their home. So I want them to feel like it's their home. You got to have that type of relationship in order to run the business. You're not going to want to have that relationship with somebody that's constantly calling you. There's an issue, or hey, the people next door was fighting, or the cops was on the block. So you're building your portfolio. You're putting your reps into something that's going to always be a pain in your neck. Once you get that done, grab the money off of that, move and pivot to the next area. You ain't got to go all the way up to where you got to put $50,000 down, but try a different zip code. Try a better neighborhood, and then put a rep or 2 in there, and then go to the next. Because once you finish your reps and you find where your sweet spot is, you're gonna be able to do this with your eyes closed.
You just I don't even think you realize what you did for me just now. You gave me some validation. Yeah. You made me what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know how when you've been thinking something, somebody say, you just made me feel like, all right, I am doing the right thing.
For sure.
So I'm doing this house in Jersey. So we
I saw that, the Crab Shack.
Yeah. So we actually done now. Well, it'll be fully done tomorrow. My guy, he had to take an extra couple of days. The countertop company, for whatever reason, but it took. So everything is done. It will be officially done. So today is Thursday, Friday. So Saturday, the cleaners come in. So it's gonna be pretty much pictures taken, listed Monday, right?
Right.
So that was my first time ever investing in Jersey. So I just said, you know what? I owe it to myself. Let me pivot. Let me try something new, because this may be. And I am realizing I'm dealing with a little bit different. I'm not worried about no neighbors. Like, I ain't even like peeking over, seeing what's going on, or like different people walking out front or trying to steal. Like, it is a little bit different. And some things that I had to worry about, like structurally wise here, maybe some bricks and things like that.
Right.
Masonry work, I don't have to worry about out over there.
Yeah.
You know those like siding. And it's just a little different. I don't have to worry about no basement stuff.
Yeah.
So, but what you're saying just made me feel good, because I'm like, let me pivot and try something new and see what happens. And I'm liking it so far. So, I'm gonna see how fast it sells, and then I might, dip in some other things. But then also too, I did a flip in Mount Airy.
I was just about to say, I want you to take a look at your flips because you flip in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I hold there.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? So when you look at the flip and you be like, damn, like just think about your process, what you did with that flip.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine if you found a rental and did that same process.
Yeah, there was no HVAC. We still kept the radiators in there. Like,
why though? Because the property was in better condition.
Yeah, and it was better condition. It was way better condition. Had the grass. No lie, bro. What we did on that house was we gut renovated the kitchen. We gut renovated the bathroom upstairs. We added a half bath on the first floor and put down new hardwood floors throughout. And then we fished the electric to add some recessed lights. And the house sold immediately for $370 or something like that.
So can I say something to you?
Then got it for like $130 or something that.
So watch this, right? You already pivoted. Yeah. You just pivoted to a different strategy. You pivoted. So right now, so when I was talking about buy, flip, hold, if you started buying more flips in that area, you're gonna sell them faster. You're gonna do less work. The house is gonna be in better condition. But now, instead of taking the profits and coming back down to DE areas, take it to Jersey. Buy a hold in the same area, because the same mindset of the person that bought the house faster. You're going to rent the house faster. Yeah. You're already there. Yeah. You know what I mean? You just gotta let go some of the tradition that you identify as your beginning success. Yeah. It's time to pivot.
I think sometimes, and I only speak for me, sometimes for two things, we get like, it's just dope to have things on the same block. Like, it's dope. Like I'm buying a house right here. I own another building right there. So it's like I can just walk these. It's kind of like an ego thing. Like, I got something right here. I got something right here. You see the same, like,
invest where you rest.
But then the second thing is more so like we get comfortable and like, this is what I know. So I'm staying like, I know this like my back of my hand. I know the numbers. It's like, it's safe for me right here. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even though it might not really be safe, but
no,
it's safe for me.
Is a business aesthetic that's safe for you, that when you see something, you don't have to run a bunch of numbers. I have an ARV appraisal in my hand that I'm not going to get jerked on this. I know my numbers are going to make sense because I have the proof of concept. But guess what? You still, like right now, you sold the price. You sold the house uptown. You got proof of concept because you got you have that altar in that HUD of what you sold. You great sell the Crab Shack in Jersey. You still got proof of concept. You just got to say, you know what? Let me do it again. Yeah. And you keep building up. That's why, once I pivot to a neighborhood, I'll probably do at least 20 to 50 deals before I even decided to go to another neighborhood. Because that 20 something deals, I'm building my proof of concept here. The reason, and when you look at it, you're like, man, I feel good because I can go from here to here to here. I'm in one cluster of all my properties. Yes, that's a great feeling. But now think about boom 10 years from now. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You can't focus on today. You got to think about what is Boone looking at tomorrow. You might say this, so you know what? I want to move to Miami. I might want to get a condo over. Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? I want to go to Miami and get a condo in Miami. But you got your whole nest. Your bank is right here. Your cash flow bank is right here. So it's like at some point you got to come back, right? But if you go pivot, is it going to be easy for you to sell a portfolio here in order to transition your business to somewhere else, or would it be easier to sell a portfolio where you got the experience of selling?
It's hard. I'm telling you from experience, it's hard as hell to sell something over here. Yeah. It's hard as hell. Like, this is a rental area. It's hard as hell to sell. I tried. It didn't work. I took it off the market. It's hard as hell to sell something over here.
And here's the thing. I ask people and I want people to understand, when you do business, you got to go with the end in mind. What's your end strategy? If your end strategy is, I'm going to always stay in this neighborhood, I'm always going to have rentals here because this is how I want to end my real estate career, then you're doing exactly what you want to do. But if your end strategy is, eventually I might get tired of this, I might pivot to something else, then you're only creating more concrete around your pivot that you can't pivot. Because now you're making it harder for yourself. You're getting too comfortable But when it's time to pivot, you're gonna be like, oh man, I can't do this now because
about it like that.
Yeah. So you always have to have a gateway segue from one thing to the next thing. When I was in 19132, I didn't know that I was going to go to 40 and 44. Mm-hmm. Remember, I didn't really want to do real estate.
Yeah.
But then when I bought that property, that quad and 44, no, I mean and 40, was it 40? The one no, I think that's 44 Germantown Ave, right?
It depends what part. It could touch. That's 40.
40.
It depends. You can go up 100 up, but yeah, it's 40.
So it's 40. Nice so when I bought that quad in 40 and I got a taste of that cash flow coming in, mm-hmm. Remember, I paid, $7,000-8,000 for it. I fixed everything up. My first tenant paid me $600. Then the next tenant was $600, and the last two was like $700. So when I was getting that money in, now I get it. Now I want to do this more. But if I would have stayed there, right? If I would have stayed there right now, we would all be buying the same properties. Mm-hmm. We would all be looking at, we're competing against each mm-hmm. other, right? So it's like when everybody go left, I go right. When everybody mm-hmm. go right, I go left. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be where everybody's at because I want to have the cream of the crop. I mm-hmm. want the best of the best. I want premium. Mm-hmm. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's you got it. Mm-hmm. It's just you gotta kind of just let go some stuff to make sure you can get to where the future Boone says, hey, you know what? In another 15 years. This is what I want my portfolio to look like. But you got to start today.
You definitely got me thinking about it. But yeah. I really enjoyed this conversation. Sure. This last kind of 5 minutes, I actually forgot we was recording, to be honest with you. I looked up.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this conversation. One thing before we close, do you have anything that you want to share with the people? Do you have things that can help them? Or one, drop your Instagram, and if you have anything that you have going on that people could tap in more, definitely share.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on all social media platforms at Calvin Cannon Jr. And the one thing I want to say to everybody is that if you are considering getting into real estate, stop waiting, stop procrastinating, stop thinking, oh yeah, it sounds good, but I don't know what to do. The first thing I'm gonna tell you to do is find out what it is that you enjoy, find out what you understand. And then once you do that, find the person that's doing it. Just find the person that's doing it, right? Tap in with them, send them a message. Hey, can I pull up? Can I have a conversation with you? I like what you're doing. What you're doing, I'm trying to emulate. And then you get started in your real estate career. Remember the things that I told you about the team members and people that you have, right? And if you're interested in tapping in with me, you can shoot me a DM. Let me know that you watched this podcast. Let me know at least 1 to 2 things that you learned from this podcast alone. Shoot me a DM. I have programs out there. You can join my community. But before you do anything, I want you to get to know me, get to trust me, and then tap in with me.
I love that.
I see you guys on the inside.
I love that. So again, thank you for being a part of this.
Oh, man,
thank you for sharing games, sharing. Again, a couple of takeaways for me. But the overall thing is like talking with someone that is seasoned, has some wisdom, and went through a couple pivots. Yeah. So that way I understand that, it is possible. You know Absolutely. What I mean? And like the validation of what I've been doing recently, just kind of like you just validated, like, dang, I am doing something. Because for some people that don't have anybody they can talk to, pivoting is scary. It's like,
for sure,
because you don't know anybody else that did it, and you like, am I doing it right or am I tripping? Yeah. But that conversation, that piece of that conversation was good for me. And then also, I think for everybody to understand, like, analyze your numbers, know exactly what you want, right. But most importantly is know exactly what you have in front of you, because like you said, some things don't need a full gut renovation.
Nah, not at all.
But also, one of the biggest things that I took away is, look at the overall of the project, not just the number. I'm getting it for 30, because because you're getting it for 30, you might deal with $300,000 worth of problems. Right. Whereas though I might pay 100, 150, but I'm dealing with less problems. I might be able to rent higher. It might be. So I think one of the things I kind of take from that is like, stop trying to be so cheap on the front, end up paying on the back end.
There it is.
I don't mind paying a little bit more on the front, but then I'm dealing with less on the back end.
Aggravation avoidance.
That's a good word. So again, everybody, thank you for watching the Funded and Closed podcast. Make sure you tap in with my guy. And make sure, like you said, he said, just start. I'm telling you, like, real estate has changed my entire life, changed his entire life. It's something that is possible. And I just want you guys to go ahead and just get started. So thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Let's go.